Scene script. Have you ever pondered how a man, merely in his 20s, could conquer the known world? Our journey begins in the year 356 before the Common Era, in a place called Pella, the capital of the Kingdom of Macedon. Here, a child was born to King Philip II and his wife Olympias, a child who would grow to become one of history's most renowned conquerors, Alexander. Even as a young boy, Alexander's life was anything but ordinary. Born into royalty, he was groomed for greatness from the moment he opened his eyes to the world. His education was personally overseen by none other than Aristotle, the great philosopher, who instilled in him a love for knowledge and wisdom. Imagine being tutored by one of the greatest minds of the era, absorbing the wealth of knowledge about the world, its philosophies, politics, and the arts. But it wasn't just the life of the mind that Alexander was trained for. His father, a seasoned warrior himself, ensured that Alexander was no stranger to the battlefield. From a tender age he was taught the art of war, the strategies of combat, and the nuances of leadership. At the tender age of 18, Alexander got his first taste of real battle, fighting valiantly beside his father at the Battle of Chaeronea. This battle, which saw the Macedonians victorious over the combined forces of several Greek city-states, was a turning point in Alexander's life. It was here that he displayed his exceptional military acumen, leading a charge that would turn the tide of the battle in favor of the Macedonians. These early experiences, a blend of intellectual nurturing and martial training, shaped Alexander into the man he would soon become. His education under Aristotle had given him a philosophical outlook towards life, while his exposure to warfare from a young age had made him a seasoned warrior even before he came of age. The stage was set for Alexander, a prodigious child, to become Alexander the Great. In the aftermath of a regal assassination, a young Alexander ascended to the throne. The year was 336 before the Common Era, and the man who had unified Greece, Philip II, was abruptly murdered. This left an enormous power vacuum, and into this stepped his son, the 20-year-old Alexander. But the path to power wasn't as smooth as one might think. The throne was a precarious seat, and the young king had to act swiftly to secure his reign. Alexander wasted no time. He moved decisively, quelling any opposition within his court by executing potential rivals, ensuring his position was unchallenged. But his trials didn't end there. The news of Philip's death sparked revolts among the tribes previously subdued by the Macedonian king. Alexander, however, proved his mettle by swiftly quashing these uprisings, demonstrating a military prowess that surpassed even his father's. A reign had begun, destined to change the course of history. With a secure throne, Alexander embarked on a conquest like no other. The Persian Empire, a colossal force that had dominated the region for centuries, now lay in the path of this Macedonian dynamo. A daunting adversary, yet Alexander was undeterred. He launched his campaign with a fervor, a zeal that was as unprecedented as it was unyielding. The Battle of Granicus marked the beginning of Alexander's onslaught against the Persians. This was not a battle won by brute force, oh no. Alexander's brilliance shone through in his innovative military strategies. He used the terrain to his advantage, turning the river into an ally. His army, though outnumbered, was able to deliver a crushing defeat to the Persians. This was not just a victory, it was a statement, but Alexander was not one to rest on his laurels. The Battle of Issus was yet another testament to his leadership and strategic prowess. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Alexander led his troops from the front. He cut through the Persian forces like a hot knife through butter, driving them into a retreat. The Persian king Darius fled, leaving his family in Alexander's custody, a victory so decisive, it shook the very foundations of the Persian Empire. In these battles, Alexander proved that he was not just a king, but a leader, a strategist, and a warrior. His courage was contagious, inspiring his men to fight with a ferocity that belied their numbers. His strategies, innovative and effective, turned the tide in battles where the odds seemed insurmountable. The Persian Empire, once a formidable force, had fallen. Its vast territories, its immense wealth, all now belonged to Alexander. Yet this was just the beginning. The world had witnessed his might, his audacity, and his genius, but the true scale of his ambition was yet to be unveiled. The Persian Empire had fallen, yet Alexander's hunger for conquest was far from satiated. Alexander's vision extended beyond the boundaries of the known world. His insatiable thirst for conquest led him and his formidable army into uncharted territories. In Egypt he wasn't just a conqueror, he was hailed as a liberator. The Egyptians, oppressed by the Persian rule, welcomed Alexander with open arms, crowning him as their pharaoh. Here he founded the city of Alexandria, a testament to his ambition and a beacon of Hellenistic culture, which would stand long after his demise. Leaving the sands of Egypt behind, Alexander ventured into the heart of Central Asia. His campaigns here were marred by bloody battles, yet his strategic genius always prevailed. He established several cities along his path, spreading Greek culture and influence deep into Asia. These new cities, many bearing his name, served as hubs of trade and culture, and they reshaped the region's demographic and cultural landscape. But Alexander was not done. His eyes were set on the exotic lands of the Indian subcontinent. He pushed his troops, battle-weary and homesick, into this unknown world. His encounters with the Indian kings presented him with a different kind of warfare, with war elephants and unfamiliar strategies. Despite the challenges, the Macedonian king emerged victorious, further expanding his empire. However, the Indian campaign marked a turning point. His men, exhausted and yearning for their homeland, pleaded with Alexander to turn back. They had followed him to the ends of the known world, but they were unwilling to venture further into the unknown. Faced with a mutiny, Alexander was forced to relent. His dreams of global conquest were dashed. The man who had conquered the world had been defeated by his own men's weariness. Alexander, the unstoppable force, had finally met his immovable object, the limits of his own men. Despite this, his legacy as one of history's greatest conquerors remains undisputed, his name etched in the annals of time, forever synonymous with the term great. In the summer of 323 BC, the world stood still. An era of unparalleled power and influence came to an abrupt end, as Alexander the Great, the conqueror of the known world, fell gravely ill in Babylon. This was a man who had defied the odds, from the rugged terrains of Persia to the vast expanses of India. A man who had rewritten the course of history, yet found himself facing an adversary he could not defeat, his own mortality. Alexander's sudden illness and subsequent death have been shrouded in mystery for centuries. Was it natural causes, or was there a darker play at hand? Some suggest poison, others hint at a deadly illness contracted in his travels. Despite the many theories, the truth remains as elusive as the man himself. What is certain, however, is that his passing marked the end of an era, the end of Alexander's unstoppable march across the continents. The immediate aftermath of Alexander's death was as tumultuous as his life. His vast empire, stretching from Greece to Egypt and far into Asia, was left without a clear heir. His generals, each a formidable force in their own right, scrambled for power. The empire that Alexander had painstakingly built was divided, marking the beginning of the Wars of the Diadochi, a series of conflicts that would rage for nearly half a century. Alexander's legacy, however, endures. Even in death, he continues to inspire, to captivate, to stir the imagination. His achievements, his conquests, and his vision have left an indelible mark on the tapestry of history. Alexander's life was a comet, burning brightly across the sky of history. He had conquered the known world, yet could not conquer time itself. And in the grand scheme of things, perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. For even the mightiest of us are but fleeting sparks in the vast expanse of time.